Don't pinch us, we're uploading a green video today. On Optimal Play, we are starting talking about the cards in Arkham Horror LCG's The Drowned City expansion with Michael McGlenn and the Rogue cards. I'm Brandon.
I'm Steven.
I'm Kyle.
I usually get the names in there sooner than I did there, but yeah, I had a lot to say.
Yeah.
And yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day. We are, cheers, sipping some Guinness.
Yeah.
Talking about the Chicago mobster, Michael McGlenn. One of us wore green.
We all wore green. You just have to trust us.
I'm told there are some green socks involved, you know.
And or pants.
Let us know in the comments whether that counts. No, the Drowned City, well, only the investigator side of it is out. And there's been some news that I thought we'd start with that I would say some vague, kind of under-explained news, but that going forward, the older campaigns, or the older products in the Arkham LCG line are going to not be printed for the foreseeable future. I think they said never. I'm in more of like a never say never.
Yeah.
I feel like part of the reason that people are clamoring for like print on demand options and stuff and they're not is so they can reserve the right to 8 years down the road re-release these older boxes.
Did you see that Ashes announced that their rotated stuff would all be available print on demand?
Yeah, they're doing a really cool thing too where you can create I'm sure that they'll put out an official like deck building tool, but you can create a deck and order that deck printed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's and it's an interesting contrast. It's within like 2 weeks of the FFG announcement. How they're handling
They're like, every product is available to you guys.
Right. And it's not just that they're not printing old products, it's that they are creating a current environment, which is a format of the game using just the last 2 or 3 years. And this is where they've been a little vague on like, are any of the old products staying evergreen, or will that just be the core set? That type of thing is all open questions. But it's going to be a smaller card pool. And if you have all the cards, you could ignore that and play with them, but they'll be kind of designed and balanced assuming you have this smaller card pool. Mm-hmm. I guess Kyle, what's your authoritative take on this matter?
I think it's fun. It's honestly been very daunting, especially as a once season player in Arkham Horror, where I would play a ton of this game, and now as I get a little older and the game's been out, I play less of it.
Yeah.
And the concept of like going in, I used to have a great knowledge of the entire card pool, and going in and building a deck right now, like I'm like, I can't remember the last 3 cycles of cards because I feel like I had such a great grasp of the first 4 or 5, and then I'm like, I have no idea what's out there. I don't even know where to start deck building anymore.
I'm with you. Like the cards that came out in the Dungeons Legacy, I've been playing with for 8 years, and I know them well. And so I keep, when I'm like just, whether I'm building a deck or just thinking about building a deck, I keep going back to those versus the ones that came out in like the Scarlet Keys are like do not stick in my head just because they're
the last one?
Or Hemlock Vale.
Hemlock Vale.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I haven't played one of the investigators from Hemlock Vale, I don't know any of those color cards.
Right.
I think it's fantastic because it's very hard to differentiate like new cards when you have like 10 years of cards.
Exactly.
And I'll give an example of like, does anyone right now care about those like mystic cards that are kind of like shriveling, but like they do a damage instead of a horror?
And they come out in every box in some slightly different variation.
I totally know what you're talking about. Like
Clairvoyance, I was thinking of the ones that came in Jack Lynn's starter deck, right?
Yeah.
Like, nobody cares about those. But if those had come out, like, a year after Shriveling had rotated, and people are like, oh, we get Shriveling back, and now it's slightly different.
Agreed.
People would be excited about those cards. Instead, no one cared.
Yep. It will result, if you choose to play with that format, it will result in a lot of the cards that you're spending your money on, a lot more of the cards that you're spending money on seeing play. Yeah, I think. Even though if you're following the letter of like the new format is like, even though they'll only see play for 2 or 3 years and then go into a box or your trash can never to be seen again, like there's still a good chance that you'll be playing cards a non-zero amount of times that you would normally play 0.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I need this announcement like tomorrow because I still haven't sleeved the new cards, and I think unlike both of you, I sleeve every bit of this product.
That's crazy.
Which is nuts. So I have like a big ass box of C4 essentially, just like plastic cardboard.
Explosives?
Yeah. Like you know, like when you go to a convention and you're on the airplane and you're like, before you get on the airplane, you know, TSA is like, whoa, what's this big rectangle plastic cardboard bomb that you have. You're like, don't worry, I'm just a nerd. So I'm at that point where my artist box that I have all my player cards in is at max capacity. Like, there's no way I can fit this cycle. So, like, FFG, if you're listening, I need it, like, you know, enjoy your St. Paddy's Day. Do it tomorrow. But do it tomorrow so that I can, before I, like, all right, so how do I sleeve this?
Sleeve some cards, basically?
I mean, or just have to, like, move the whole artist box around, because I have, like, some weaknesses, and I have some neutrals, and I'm like, I guess I could offload this and do a different box, but just save me the trouble. Just, like, tell me which ones to burn now, and I'll just go burn them.
My guess is that you could burn everything up to Hemlock Vale. I think that even though they're saying, like, in 2026, my guess is that then the current environment will be kind of officially introduced with the next release of content. Right? Well, not just, like, in January, but in March or whenever that happens. And then it'll be about 3 cycles that are considered part of that environment, so that would be going back to Hemlock. I also am, like, kind of expecting a core set 3.0.
Yeah.
It's been almost as long since the revised core set as the revised core set was from the first one.
And the revised core set changed very little from what I understand.
Yeah. And it just makes sense with this change, right? To reevaluate what should be
is evergreen
constant in the environment. Yeah,
no, I agree.
And that, I think, a lot of games, like Netrunner at least, they use core sets as a way of saving some rotated cards. So, like, any cards from Dunwich that they consider, like, core to the game will probably be in Core 3.0 if that happens.
Agreed. Yeah. And they did some of that. Like, I think Rite of Seeking was in core set, was in the revised core set, right? Yeah. So they did a little bit of that, but I think that obviously that was not done with this new model in mind. Like, we were talking about this off camera. I don't even think the Drowned City was probably designed with this in mind, probably, because this was designed... No. It's releasing like in 2025. The design work was probably mostly done in 2023.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that this was a more... Especially because it was a business... It was the way they presented it, clearly sort of like a business-first decision. It's like, we think we're scaring off new players with all these products, and stores are are not as excited to carry the game when they feel like they have to carry a wall of products.
Yeah.
All that stuff. And then the rotating the environment and the ways that they can try to improve the design of the game and the balance of the game was sort of a silver lining that came second, right? So also for that reason, I wouldn't be surprised if this decision was made 3 months ago. Announced 1 month ago, and the designers are just now starting to design products.
I mean, I feel like finally the business decisions are making a little bit more sense, because, like, for so long we had, like, the monthly releases of these horrible little, like, plastic packs that were just the worst product in the world, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm playing this campaign and I want to play it. Like, I like the idea of it's like a TV show and it releases once a month, and you're like, oh, I'm playing the next chapter, but, like, you forget so much from the last month that you played that, you know, now we have it all coming out at once. Good, you know, it only took 8 years. And now we're getting into a smaller card pool, and I think is also probably beneficial for the longevity.
I do think that announcing it as a business decision was incredibly stupid. It would be like it's like a politician being like, "We're doing this bill because it's good politics and it helps us with this one demo."
I don't fully agree, because I think that made it seem way more genuine. I think if they had tried to sweep that part of it under the rug, it would have been.
But it
would have felt like they were trying to put lipstick.
Every single card game has rotation. Like, if they just said we are doing rotation, like every other card game in the world, no one would question it.
Arguably, a co-op card game doesn't need it in the same way a competitive game does.
Sure.
I say arguably because I am actually also excited for the rotation and the shrinking of the card pool for a couple reasons, because I think the balance of the game is wild and people are taking 8 action turns and stuff that the game was not really conceived with. And also, I just like card games in their more fundamental state. I don't like really combo heavy gameplay, whether it's a cooperative or a competitive game. So I think that smaller card pool leads to more sort of fundamental gameplay, which is what I enjoy. But yeah, I think just coming out and saying we decided what's best for this game is to rotate it. I don't know. I still think I think then you'd get conspiracy theories and everyone would be on Discord and stuff saying like, they're just trying to, I don't know, saying some of the same things they're saying now. They're just trying to say,
it's like you don't have to say it's a business decision. You can be like, we want to continue to grow the community and it's just unaccessible right now. Like that's fine without being like, it was a business decision for we need more money.
Yeah, maybe so. And I agree. I'll defend them being upfront about, and I'm a CPA, like I don't know, I like thinking about business and the board game industry and all this stuff, so partly I appreciated it for that reason, maybe. I will defend them being upfront about it being business related. I do think that it was a pretty poor communication in general, where they told you all this, they told you that, for those of you who don't have a full collection, that you're running out of time to get it if you want it, or that you're going to stop using some of your products soon if you play with this new environment, but they didn't tell you what.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. The total, like,
crazy.
Okay, well, waiting on eggshells here.
Absolutely insane to me to announce this plan with no details.
Yes.
I wonder if it's because they jinxed it so many times before, because FFG is famous for announcing rotations and like canceling games before the rotation. Like they would have really detailed plans for rotation,
right?
And then they would either cancel it right before the rotation or right after the rotation, so there would be like almost no like time, if any, in the post rotation. So maybe they're like, we've done that so many times that this time we're not going to announce an elaborate plan because it'll just get the game canceled.
Did that happen with Game of Thrones? I know you played Game of Thrones.
Yes, it happened with Game of Thrones.
Netrunner, I think it rotated once under its rotation schedule and then was canceled. Yeah, that's funny.
Well, I mean, there's also that conspiracy theory.
So what you're saying is that the game's about to end.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're like, as long as we don't provide a plan for how rotation is happening, it won't like invoke the curse.
Right.
Yeah. That's actually very funny.
I was on board with some of the speculation about the game maybe being about to end and having a sort of a soft reboot with things like, especially in the Drowned City box, things like the core set was an Elder Sign icon, and this one is the auto fail. It feels like bookends, and the cards in this box, there's like at least 3 cards that let you search your collection for things, which obviously are completely limiting future designs and all this stuff, unless it's unless they're not going to. So I don't know, and that's part of why I think that Core Set 3.0 could come and could be more different even than we think. Could be more different than the revised one. It could still be. I don't know, I'm still looking at things like in the announcement article to the Drowned City, it talked about how this is going to mean big things for the game, and I'm not sure that was about this announcement. I still think that it could be that, like, and I think they said, maybe I'm making this up, I think they said in that stream, there was an offhand mention about the events of the Drowned City kind of changing the stories they can tell and stuff. Like, I still would be A, delighted, and B, not all that surprised if the game's changed to being set in a different time period or something after the Drowned City.
Whoa.
Something kind of dramatic.
A big deviation from history.
I thought that would maybe be paired with a clean break. Like, it's compatible, but kind of, this is Arkham LCG 2.
Yeah.
Right, 2nd edition. But maybe it's not. Maybe that part I don't think is as likely anymore.
Yeah.
But I still would really like it, and I think it would be a cool way to put out a new core set that is dramatically different. And that I want to buy. Right. I didn't buy the revised core set.
Yeah. So.
Anyway, any other thoughts on this, or should we talk about some cards?
Let's talk about green stuff.
Green stuff. Okay. So we'll talk about Michael McGlenn. And after that, I'll talk. We're actually switching up the format of these a little bit, which has always been a full card by card review. We're gonna do less than all the cards. We'll get to that. Let me tell you about Michael McGlenn, the gangster. He is a. I'm gonna start with his flavor text. I like the investigator stories. Yeah. Michael McGlenn was a man of few words. He didn't need to talk much. He had fast Louis for that. The two of them were O'Banion's best soldiers, making sure the gang was respected throughout Arkham. Until the night the thing in the river dragged Louis off the dock to tear him to pieces beneath the water. And let me finish this and then I have a thought. Michael thought his bosses would call him crazy when he told them what happened. But the truth was worse. They told him they believed him and to let the matter lie. But Michael can't just let the death of his partner or the things he saw that night go unpunished. He's still a man of few words. Now he'll let his gun do the talking. Oh, that last sentence. Off camera, I had read the first couple sentences about this, and I was like, there's a firearm-focused ally in the box. Why isn't that fast Louis? And you speculated that was his gun.
Yeah. Now it is.
Which I love. As I went on to read the rest of the paragraph, that seemed less likely, although it would still be very funny if his gun fell in the water, was ripped to pieces, and that launches his
vendetta story.
Vendetta story.
Yeah.
But I guess it did answer my question about why isn't the green ally in the box past Louis. It's because
he's dead.
He was dead. Yeah. If he was in the box, Michael McGlenn wouldn't be. He'd still be happily extorting local businesses or whatever it is.
Happily doing some low-level shakedowns.
Yeah. So he's the gangster. He's a criminal and a hunter with 3 willpower. This feels high for green.
Yeah.
1 intellect, 5 combat, and 3 agility. And the reaction ability, after you spend 1 or more ammo from a firearm asset, gain 1 resource. Limit once per firearm asset per round. And his Elder Sign is +2. You may place 1 ammo on a firearm asset you control. Don't care if it's good, don't care if it's a god. That's a different sentence. If it crosses me, it's gonna regret it, is his quote. He has 9 health, 5 sanity, and he has a 30 card deck. Can use rogue cards level 1 to 3. I only just noticed that. I don't know if I had noticed that before.
I definitely did not notice that.
Neutral cards 0 to 5, and cards with firearm either as a trait or in their text box, level 0 to 5.
Did they mess up and forget to print it as like a trait on some card?
No, but like it's an event that can play with firearms.
That was an adventure because when I read and reacted to rogue cards level 0 to 3, I was like, oh, he can't level up the green ally in the box that feels like it's made for him. And then when I got to with firearm in its text box, like, oh yes, he can.
Also, you said 1 to 3. It is 0 to 3. When you first read it, you said
Did I say 1 to 3? Definitely 0 to 3.
Okay, I was like, wait, what? I was like, can he just take 0 neutral? Like, what? Hold on, we need to like go back to the drawing board here.
I did not even catch myself saying that. And then his deck building requirements include his signature quote unquote Viola case, the card confiscation, and 1 random basic weakness. Initial thoughts on Michael McGlenn?
Seems like he'll shoot him if they cross him. He's gonna shoot him. And he's going to get some money from it.
I've always really liked firearms because they have ammo. I like the gameplay I like needing to make the decisions and conserve ammo or manage that as a resource. And I also like, I prefer to put a bunch of assets in my deck and rotate them in and out of play, as opposed to just putting exactly as many assets as you have slots into your deck, and you're just trying to find them all, and then you're done and just play skills and events. So I like guns for that reason. I'm excited to have. He is the first kind of firearm focused investigator. It feels like a trait that is surprising to have made it 9 years. Without having someone care about it.
Yeah, I guess like Lily came out and a few cycles ago, and she was the first melee focused fighter. But yeah, I think he is.
And there are a lot that have a signature firearm.
Sure,
so if you consider signature a big part of what makes an investigator unique, there are.
But I mean, specifically like caring about the firearm trait, whether for deck building or for ability.
Yeah,
I think surprised it made it this far. Let me tell you about the Viola case. It is, this may surprise you, Michael McGlenn deck only. It's a 2-cost accessory asset that is an item and illicit. It says you have 2 additional hand slots, which can only be used to hold firearm assets. And as a reaction after you play Viola Case, search the top 9 cards of your deck for a firearm asset and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck.
So strong.
So it's prepared for the worst. Built into this.
To the asset.
Asset that gives you 2 additional slots. Costs you your accessory slot. Which
I guess no lucky cigarette case.
I mean, rogues love their accessory slot, right?
That's true.
It's a big trade-off. Like, I don't feel like Michael McGlenn probably wants to play a cursed deck because I don't think there's very many guns that overlap with that archetype. No. But still, like Lucky Penny and all these fun cards for that archetype are all accessories.
Or Garrote Wire, which Tony got a lot of use out of. But
I love Tony and Garrote Wire are 2 of my favorite cards.
Yeah.
They're excellent. Okay, his weakness is Confiscation, a treachery that is a blunder, and says, shuffle each firearm asset in your play area into your deck. If no asset was shuffled into your deck by this effect, take 1 damage and shuffle Confiscation back into your deck. You go on hunting, Mr. McGlenn? I actually love the art on this card as it's like it's a camera shot from inside this trunk full of guns as 2 cops. So it's searching the car or something.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That is a brutal weakness.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
It definitely is. And the ally in the box that we will talk about shortly, I think, helps you with that by letting you activate firearms from your hand rather than put them into your hand slots. But brutal. Take all the things that you care about and shuffle them into your deck.
Damn.
Pretty rough. Yeah, I love Michael McGlynn. And like, it ties into what I was just saying. I like kind of fundamental gameplay, and I feel like guns have been part of the fundamentals of kind of combat-focused investigators for, or at least they were back in the day. And I think they've really fallen to the wayside compared to things that don't use ammo and don't require that. So I'm happy to see this. Do you think that just gaining roughly a resource per round, maybe more if you have multiple guns that you're using, is a good enough upside?
I do. It's like pretty good because it helps, I guess, pay for more guns. It's like a little bit boring. Like I love that it incentivizes you to have multiple guns out because you can only use it once per gun. I wish it was like a little bit more exciting, but it's still nice. And then
it's once per gun per round, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Once per gun per round. So it incentivizes you to have multiple guns. But also that only matters if you have like multiple hit points worth of enemies to shoot them at, right?
True.
So part of me wonders whether his ability is as good as Jenny's, right? Which is not a character that is really considered one of... I mean, one of the reasons she's not considered one of the stronger characters, I think, is her stats.
Line. Yeah, his stats, I think, are much better.
His stats are way better,
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a player count thing. I hate to bring that up, but like 4-player,
you're a lot more likely to
probably
going to
get two resources around.
Yeah,
extra.
Agreed.
If they ever release a gun that shoots clues, like he can make tons of money.
Shoots clues.
That paper looks pretty suspicious.
Actually, it would. I don't know what the flavor of this would be, but a investigation focused investigator that has a signature asset that's like drop a clue to use this powerful gun. So that's like firing clues, using your clues as its ammo would be. I'd be on board for that.
Well,
I was like, I'm pretty sure Steven built that deck and it didn't do anything. I was like, Steven, you're our main seeker. Why have you dropped 4 clues and only picked up 2 this round?
It'll work out someday.
Yeah, eventually.
So, yeah, I like him a lot. I am just a little... I will probably never try this, because why would you? But I'm curious whether you could build a deck with him that has few or no guns. It's like as good or better than building around his ability and then having to use guns when there are strong ammo-free items, right?
Yeah. I mean, but I think that's a big part of like why the revitalized cycle might be interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there are so many good melee weapons out there that if you're just like that safe player who just wants to like just pop out, oh, I got my kit set up, all right, I'm just gonna like swipe this guy for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I actually totally agree. Is that there's thousands of cards in the game, and several of them are extremely strong ammo-less attack items, right? In a way that like you might just be better off using those. But when you're playing the current environment, you're a lot more likely to build towards utilizing his ability rather than just using strong cards, because there's just less of those top tier cards.
Sure.
Right? Yeah.
Probably.
Okay. So, excuse me, as I had a cold 2 weeks ago and is still manifesting as me having to clear my throat every few minutes. If you've watched our videos, they're kind of long.
45 minutes in.
We talk about, we are over 20 minutes in.
Oh, wow.
But we talked for 10 about the new, the news.
Sure.
So, we talk about every card, and I would say that especially lately, and especially me, I've been pretty negative on a lot of them. And I think this actually ties into why rotation will be a good thing, is because it's very hard to make every card that is joining a card pool of thousands of cards interesting and like a good option to put into a deck.
Yeah, filling a slot that doesn't already exist 7 other ways.
Yeah, and so, but I wanted to not set out to make another series of primarily negative videos. And so, I think this was Steven's suggestion. What we landed on is that in each class discussion, one of us, we've divided up the classes, so I'm doing it for Rogue. We're choosing our top 5 highlights that we want to talk about. So if there's a card that isn't in these top 5, just assume we hate it, right?
Or it's like really good but not interesting at all.
That's true. Yeah.
Because we didn't really have a qualifier for the top 5. It's just like the 5 cards you want to talk about.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of cards in the box that I am kind of happy to have the news about rotation because I am like, this will never go in a deck, but hey, maybe it will when all these other options are gone, like Crowbar, right? Like there are some very kind of straightforward cards that feel like they could be baseline level 0 staples in a smaller card pool.
Yeah.
And I'll be interested to see whether they are, I guess. Okay, so I've chosen 5 cards that I thought were particularly interesting or fun to talk about. At least several of them have nothing to do with Michael McGlenn. Like String Along, the 3-cost level 0 asset that's a talent, and like most talents or all talents, it isn't slotless. And it has a reaction ability. When you attempt to evade an enemy, exhaust String Along. For this evasion attempt, you get +1 skill value, and the enemy gains alert. If you succeed, draw 1 card and do not disengage from that enemy. So this, I think, is really interesting because it enables sort of a style of play that some cards have hinted at that I don't feel like has worked all that well, which is to keep an enemy at your location all the time, right? And this lets you keep invading it, but keep it engaged with you. So if you then decide to move, it comes with you. And everything from, like, Second Wind... Is it Second Wind? Or, no, what's the investigate card that gets an extra clue if there's it's not
Scene of the Crime.
Scene of the Crime. Everything from Scene of the Crime will just like always work for 2 clues to I don't know, there's more cards in this box that like want there to be an enemy at your location, to even just being able to play an evadey rogue and bring things to the fighter on your team who's gonna deal with them, or pile them up and play dynamite, whatever. Like, I think that this is very cool, and the fact that you get to draw a card means that the fact that you're essentially kind of being taxed one of your actions every turn for this evasion at least kind of gets some value back via a card draw.
This is a Seeker card.
It's
It's primarily for Lucius, who is in this box. Who absolutely
who can take rogue. Yeah.
Who's useless without an enemy. Like, his card is blank without an enemy.
Yeah, and I think he discovers a clue and he evades.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think Trish also probably wants this.
Yeah.
So I think this is all the Seekers that want an enemy can take this card. So
yeah,
I think Trish is rogue, but yeah.
Oh, is she rogue?
I actually forgot.
Trish is rogue. She's high intellect rogue.
Yeah.
She, I think, also can take Seeker cards.
Yeah.
So it's understandable. I think. Wait, can Ursula take this? Is Ursula up? No, I was thinking.
No, she just relics.
That's right.
Monterey
I was thinking
Jack.
she was up to 5 other level 0 cards, but she's not done with
Monterey
Seeker.
Jack's another Seeker rogue, though I think I don't know that he cares about enemies as much.
Yeah. But I think just this is an interesting enemy management tool on its own to be able to basically move exhausted enemies around. And because they're exhausted, they're also not hunting that turn, so they're sitting there for at least a turn. You can really create kill boxes. And then there are just a lot of cards in the game that reward you for having an enemy at your location. I think, as I'm skipping ahead to Gatling Gun, which is, spoiler, one of the 5, but for whatever reason, I kept these in level order, which is the order they're in the box, right? So it's last. But it also wants a pile of enemies at your location. So it even plays along with that, even if it's, I don't know if String Along is Michael McGlenn's jam, but
Yeah.
because his agility is only 3, like, I don't know. So yeah, anyway, that's
Love it.
that's the first one. Next up is another one not for Michael. This is Where's the Party? It's a 0-cost event. Actually, that's a lie. This is maybe for Michael. I guess I'm just saying that because it's a parlay. It's also a trick and improvised. It says, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a non-elite enemy and spawn it exhausted and engaged with you. Draw cards equal that enemy's combined damage and horror values. I love this. I like the... I've always liked On the Hunt, right? Which is the Guardian card that lets you pull an enemy out of the deck and gain resources.
You're thinking of kicking the Hornet's Nest if it's resources.
Oh, yeah, which is also Rogue, huh?
Which is... It's honestly kicking the Hornet's Nest, except draw instead of resources.
Yeah, and you spawn it exhausted.
Oh, that's great, yeah.
Yeah. So this is more for that same archetype as String Along, I think, where you want an enemy with you, and this gives you one if you didn't have one for whatever reason.
It's like the I feel like there was an archetype when Handcuffs came out, where it was like Michonne from Walking Dead, if you know that reference. Had like 2 zombies that she like cut off their arms so they couldn't
and she walked
around with them to be like, so you can go in and out of hordes without getting detected. So it's like very much that style of play. Drag around your, neutered enemy.
You're absolutely right. I love that. Yeah.
I like the flavor of like, you find this like party where all these like fish people are hanging out. You start flirting with one of them. You're like stringing them along, like, hey, come over this way, like let's find a room. And you're just like dragging this fish person all around this haunted mansion. And
speaking of partying, Alessandra is another one who, if only so that she can always play her parlay cards that have a variety of effects, really likes the enemy at her location.
True,
right?
Yeah.
So Alessandra's second box is what we're.
I think it's in this one for Lucius though. Like in this box, it's a Lucius card, but could definitely be a Alessandra card.
I agree. I think String Along is more clearly a Lucius card than Where's the Party. But even Where's the Party for him gets some card draw. It's just that he's a seeker, and if he wants card draw, he can.
No, he needs an enemy. I think you use it, especially if you don't have Kicking the Hornet's Nest in your card pool. Then you need this card. So it's like preparing you for when Kicking the Hornet's Nest rotates, because he needs some way to spawn an enemy.
Yeah, fair. I guess I was picturing for most of the game, Lucius can have an enemy. Like, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you want this. Yeah, I'm interested to play Lucius. He's another investigator. I'm a big fan of in this box. I'm also a fan of this next card, Doppelganger. It's a 2-cost level 1 event, but it's myriad. 1 XP to add all these to your deck, all 3 of them. It's a spell and trick. It's fast. There's a lot of keywords and traits to get through on this. Play only during your turn, attached to your location. Limit 1 per location. And then as a reaction, after an enemy enters or leaves attacked location, return Doppelganger to your hand as part of the cost of this ability to either perform an evasion attempt against that enemy or immediately move to attached location. I love that you can sprinkle these around and then bounce around the board with them.
Unreal card.
Super cool. Yeah, you're a fan?
Yeah, when I read this, I was like, wow, if you have enough money, you just like don't care about a lot of the normal concerns of the game.
Yep.
Because it always returns to hand, so you just can always have like yourself essentially at 4 different locations at any given time. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and you also, and actually, I don't have Lucius in front of me do you know off the top of his head, does his ability to discover a clue? So this can let him.
You have to evade by 2 or more, so automatic evades don't work.
But this doesn't automatically evade. It lets you perform an evasion attempt.
Oh, I see.
And this lets you remotely perform an evasion attempt, right? Because you don't have to be there. So I'm wondering, does he get a clue from that location?
Oh, it
specifically says discover a clue at your location.
Okay, so it could give him, without having to actually have an enemy near him, could give him a free discovery.
You could put it on a high shroud location.
No, so that's what I'm saying.
Oh, you need to plant it yourself at a high shroud location.
You put these around the board, and then you set the high shroud location. Yeah. Every time an enemy enters one of those, you evade it and gain a free high shroud.
Enters or leaves, right?
Enters or leaves. Yeah,
that's so good. The
idea, I guess, being, so I guess it leaves, but then you can still evade that enemy at its new location, right? I'm thinking the main purpose for using it when someone leaves the location is to jump into that location now that the enemy is gone, right? Like you almost like can kind of play cat and mouse. You can like swap places with it essentially, or be further away. And
if it's like 2 location, or if it's 1 location away from you and it hunts towards you, as soon as it leaves the location, it's already into your new location before it engages you. You pop into the old location.
Yeah. And it can even combine with effects that force enemies to move, right? Someone can Cyclopean Hammer an enemy into this location where your doppelganger is to trigger it.
Sure.
That type of stuff.
Get over here.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's I think it's myriad mainly for flavor. Because the word myriad works so well on this concept.
Well, it's the same. We just got the Guards of Atlantis expansion, and that has a character with 4 copies. So this one also has 4 copies, so maybe it's a Guards of Atlantis crossover.
Yeah, that must be it. There's no other way.
I kind of wish that this did work the way that character Razzle does in Guards of Atlantis, because in Razzle they are not clones or copies, they are you.
Yeah.
And I wish that this actually let you just be like, for all intents and purposes, you are at 4 locations. Enemies can attack you at all 4 of them, but you can investigate at all 4 of them. Actually, I want that investigator. I don't know what the I don't know what the flavor is of that character.
I think that's kind of Luke, honestly.
Yeah, that's the investigator that, even if it's two, the investigator that just has too many cards, and they are both that investigator. Now
are they identical twins? Or are they
actually? Yeah. If you don't want to make it like a mystic who has some, like one is their shadow or something, you could also just have them be twins. Oh man,
so silly.
Yeah,
I love it.
that would be fun.
And speaking of mystics, this is a spell, so a lot of mystics can take this.
Yes, that is true, and I think it's reasonably interesting for a lot of types of decks.
Yeah.
Like, if only just the ability to kind of warp around the board, even if you are not
and
likely
fast.
to succeed at an evasion attempt, right? And it's fast. It is 2 resources.
Well,
it's
cost is
more expensive than like shortcut or things too.
Assets that boost your skill test during spell events, I guess you could use those on the
like
evasion here.
Asame.
Oh yeah, this obviously doesn't count as playing an event when you trigger it, but is it a skill test during during an event for those purposes? That's a good question.
That's a great question.
Maybe. I don't know. That's a weird one.
Is it a reaction? Is it like a reaction?
It's a reaction.
Then probably
icon on it.
I think it would probably play like in the like little cross class like 2 resources every turn boosters on spells. I think that would probably
it
work.
would depend on exactly the templating of the effect you're talking about. If it says like, if it's a reaction that's like when you play an event get +2 to all skill tests during that event, that would not be, you're not playing an event. But if it was written as when resolving a skill test during an event, like, I think that's weird.
Yeah,
weird.
I can't remember.
Also, speaking of Luke, someone mentioned Luke. He can play these remotely, right, onto adjacent locations. Yeah.
Very cool. I don't think he has.
I don't think he has access. Yeah.
Oh, he can't take this?
Yeah.
Oh, that's tragic.
I know, because it's very him.
Yeah, it's so cool. He could even put one in his gate box location, right?
Although it would never trigger.
Yeah. Never mind. All right, fine.
I do wish that you could, like, anytime an enemy did a thing at one of the doppels, you could like teleport to any doppel. That would be really cool.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Anyway,
okay. Robert Castaigne. I chose the level 4 version because it has cooler words on it. But there is a level 0 version. And the main thing I want to call out is that it's one of those cards I love where his subtitle evolves. At level 0, he has your back. Robert Castaigne has your back. And at level 4, Robert Castaigne still has your back.
And honestly, that's like good comedy, right?
Yeah. So he is a 3-cost level 4 ally. So he uses the ally slot. Veteran traded, should that ever matter. You get +1 combat. And as a fast ability, exhaust Robert Castaigne to fight. Reveal firearm asset that takes up 1 or fewer hand slots from your hand. Resolve a fight ability on the revealed asset, ignoring all costs. Then you may either discard the revealed asset to draw 1 card, or play that asset, paying its cost.
Whoa.
Yeah. And the
what's a 0?
I think the level 0 version just makes you discard it to resolve its effect once. Yeah. So let me start with what I don't like about it. It doesn't work as well as you'd want it to with Michael McGlenn.
Yeah.
It seems like it's designed for him, especially because his ability pushes him to have one-handed guns because he wants to have multiple firearms to trigger his ability more often. And this only works with one-handed guns, so that seems to make sense. But when you're firing guns via Robert's ability, you are not getting a resource from Michael because you're not spending ammo. There was no ammo on the card in your hand to spend, right? So that anti-synergy bugs me.
But it does pop it into play.
It does pop it into play. Yeah. You have the option to discard to draw a card or play the asset. So yeah, I still think he goes in Michael's deck.
Yeah.
Just that rubs me the wrong way a little bit, that it like doesn't work. It doesn't count as firing a gun for his ability, which like in all other cases it's just whenever you shoot a gun, trigger this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe the idea though is that this way you can put like 15 guns in his deck and not worry about like, oh crap, I drew 8 of them. What do I do with all these guns? You just throw them all in the deck. Don't worry about it. Discard the other copies.
Yeah, agreed. And I like also, that Michael McGlenn pushes you towards one-handed guns because, like I said, I think the gun playstyle of your fire and your it starts to click, it runs out of bullets, you have to find a new gun and stuff. That's cool, and this plays right into that.
Yeah.
And works great with it. So
it also
it's really cool.
Opens up so much, I guess, greed or pushing the limits of doing other things except prepping yourself for enemies, because it's a fast trigger that can put into play after, and like maybe you just killed the thing that jumped at you, and like you have two other enemies, and you're like, oh shit, I'll shoot one, put the gun into play, and then try to shoot the rest.
Agreed. Getting
like fast, no attacks of opportunity.
Some fast, I guess, damage, assuming the gun does damage. I think all guns do, and then
the ones that shoot clues.
Right. So fast damage and fast putting any one-handed firearm into play.
Yeah.
Really strong.
Really strong.
Yeah, so I love him. I love this card. I think he's worth the 4 XP. I think that a lot of the high-level cards these days don't feel worth it, but I think he feels worth it. Because that's a big difference to get it to put that gun into play.
Yeah.
Speaking of guns, although not speaking of one-handed guns, the last card I wanted to talk about is the Gatling gun. The level 5 rogue asset that costs 5, has 4 icons down its side. And it is an item, a weapon, a firearm, and illicit. I guess most green guns have like 4 or 5 traits. Yeah. It uses 12 ammo, and then as an action, spend 1 to 6 ammo. You get plus X combat for this attack. The difficulty for this attack is equal to the combined fight values of all enemies at your location. Instead of its standard damage, this attack deals X damage divided as you choose among enemies at your location. X is the amount of ammo spent as part of this ability's cost. So you have to add up all the enemies at your location. I'm realizing right now that I'm curious how that interacts with the swarming enemies. Are you basically, like, if there's 3 enemies in a swarming stack, are you tripling their fight for this purpose? Right? I think so. So maybe don't play this in Dream Eaters, but to be able to spend 6 ammo, get plus 6 for that fight against their combined. So you're going to end up being like, okay, I'm at 14 skill versus their 12 taking this test. And then ending up getting to divide 6 damage between them. If not good, it's fun.
It's definitely fun. My thoughts on whether it's good or not are pretty middling.
Well, so like, let's say that you're at 5 base with McGlenn. You have plus 1 from your ally, Robert. He's got your back. You spend 6 ammo, so now you're at 12. So, like, you could reasonably shoot 3 2-fight enemies. Maybe even some of them are 3-fight.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right? I mean, I think you could reasonably hit 3 3-fight enemies. Then you'd still be testing 12 versus 9 in your example. Just throw a skill card into that to be safe.
Yeah, I would probably want to be a little more than plus 3 just because I'm spending 6 ammo,
right,
you know?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, if you can throw in a skill card, then...
I think this card does very well in the new model of limited card pool, because like the first things that jump to my mind are like flamethrower or the bar, which have similar feelings of like spending ammo to do X damage or targeting multiple enemies. And
I was gonna say, but a Gatling gun is more badass, but a flamethrower is pretty badass.
Flamethrower is pretty badass. Just searing all these like ghouls that are around you seems pretty cool too.
You can just use this to plink 12 times for $12.
Yeah, it's a 12 ammo plus 1. The one wrinkle to that is that it's bad if there are that is terrible if there's multiple enemies at your location, because you still have to add up their fight.
True.
You can't pick and choose which ones you're targeting.
And also plus 1 and 1 damage is not the best.
We're just trying to make money here. Okay?
Just put a single fight icon into a punch and it's just the same
result. Do that once per round for 12 rounds. You've just made a net 7 resources over the course of an entire game.
Exactly.
With Michael's ability. Also filling up his 2 hand slots the whole game.
He's got 4 hand slots.
That's true. His Viola case does add some. Yeah, and then I love how it combos with Contraband also. At least until maybe that rotates, but to double its ammo to 24 is pretty sweet.
And then double it again with I don't know,
another copy of Contraband.
Yeah, or like
if you don't play Taboo,
Safina crazy shit.
If you don't play Taboo, double or nothing is extremely good for this.
Oh my god, yeah.
I guess you're not doubling the plus combat, but you're doubling the 6 damage to 12.
You're also doubling the 12 difficulty to 24.
Right.
Speaking of, they put out a card in this rogue set that sounded like it was going to be the new Double or Nothing, but it ended up being, I think it was called All or Nothing or something.
Yeah,
I was like, they finally brought back Double or Nothing, but it was instead it was just like,
it was a gambling one, right?
Yeah,
like committing resources
it's
just like
wild. Yeah, it's like a skill card that lets you spend resources to add wilds to it, something like that.
Yeah, I was really excited for new Double or Nothing.
Yeah, sadly no. In the announcement of the kind of new design and printing policy. I don't know. I wish there was an easy way to describe this news. Like, what's the headline? Just put 5 words on this. I don't know. Like, Fantasy Flight's not printing your favorite sets anymore. But they did talk about what would probably, and this is something Marvel Champions already does, but what this may do is mean that they reprint cards sometimes. Mm-hmm. And they even said that they were open to reprinting cards but mechanically tweaking them, which is basically putting out a new card but saving money on art. But anyway, I would be interested in a kind of somehow adjusted or fixed Double or Nothing, because I think it's a super fun card that just limits design space in pretty obvious ways.
Yeah, if it was like maybe double one of the cards, like one of the effects associated with this or something.
It's also the kind of design that is design space that has maybe opened back up in the more limited card pool, because if they can print cards that they're like, okay, the existence of this card limits our design space, but it's only going to be something we have to design around for a little while, and then it's gone. Maybe actually lets them print cool cards like that, and then be like, okay, we're going to live with 2 years of having to design around this. Unlike Double or Nothing, which was like for the
every 10 years
every Arkham card that we ever think of, we have to consider whether it's broken with Double or Nothing. Like, I mean, that's the main reason it's taboo, not because they don't want you to have fun, but because they didn't want to have to design around it.
Yeah, they're like, we've been spending, speaking of good business decisions, we've been spending 20 hours every quarter just talking about Double or Nothing. We need to cut back on our expenses. Too many meetings about Double or Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I would be surprised if there was anyone like counting up looking at calendars and being like, Maxine, why do you have a double or Nothing meeting every Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Standing Double or Nothing stand-ups. That's amazing.
All right, well, that's it. That's the Rogue video.
We did it.
We're gonna do this for each of there are 5 classes in the game. We're going to talk about, as far as we know still, going forward.
6. That's neutral class.
We are going to talk about each class, and then we will do a 6th video where we talk about specifically Steven's favorites from among the neutral and specialist cards, which are a new idea in this box that are keyed to investigator traits rather than classes. And I think we'll talk about Agatha in that one too, because she's floating in the between class ether also. So, thank you for watching the first of our 6 videos. I think I'll try to put out 2 a week. I feel like when they come out too far after the box, they don't feel very timely. So
yeah.
So I'll see if I have the time and energy to edit that much. But
it's all right. We're gonna keep these high and tight. 20 minutes max. Right?
Yeah.
How do you do?
Totally. Great. Only 45.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so thank you guys for the good conversation, and happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St.
Patty's.